Specifically, they're banning any mention of Black Lives Matter, or taking a knee during the anthem, or raising a fist while on the podium. You know, all the forms of protest created by black activists to talk about black issues? Those are the ones banned.
No, it's all political demonstrations that are banned. Either you should have a problem with none of it, or you should have a problem with all of it. Otherwise, it seems you're entitled, since you think your political cause should be allowed in a sporting event in Japan, but not everyone else's. You don't have a problem with them not being allowed to demonstrate for political causes that are actually relevant in that part of the world, but you should be allowed to make yours the center of everything. Makes you look very entitled. Before I continue, I want to tell you of a video I would recommend watching if you're interested in paganism or just ancient times and the Olympics, called The Mythology of the Olympics, which talks about how the Olympics originates in ancient times and had pagan rituals and other things relating to paganism, which I will leave a link for in the description.
The U.S. women's soccer team is a very good example of what's going on. They unexpectedly lost to Sweden 3-0.
They did lose to Sweden, and then they beat New Zealand 6-1.
Sure.
Like that team won the World Cup title in 2019 for the 4th time.
Yep.
What are you talking about? Wokeism makes you lose. Like,
They announced that athletes will continue to face punishment for protesting or demonstrating while on the medal podium, at official ceremonies, or on the field of play. The thing is, Karan J. Phillips of Deadspin put it rather, well, in plain and simple terms. If you were ever dumb enough to believe that racism was just an American problem, then this is proof that people all across this globe hate black people.
Could this argument not be used the other way too? If you believe that you can't be racist against white people, that just means you're trying to justify your hatred for white people. And when the mainstream media makes these points, that proves that this world hates white people. Or when people get so offended when a country like Australia thinks about taking in a few white people from South Africa trying to escape from oppression, that proves that this world must simply hate white people. Or when people have a problem with a few Eastern European countries who wish to remain white majority and not change through immigration, something which no one has a problem with when Asian countries do it, that is proof that this world must hate white people.
Hammer throw gold medalist Gwen Berry raised her fist, reminiscent of John Carlos.
You might look at a fist and see a symbol that you believe will liberate black people, but do you know what a lot of white people see? A lot of white people see that the BLM fist is just a Marxist fist painted black. So is anyone surprised that people in Eastern and Central Europe have a problem with BLM?
When Ireland played Hungary in Budapest, fans booed. The Hungarian players did not kneel, showing a lack of solidarity for human rights.
So how would you feel if people asked you to support a movement for so-called human rights that uses the same symbol as an ideology that murdered millions of people from your part of the world?
They were killed by one of the Allies, the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was killing people in this way for many years, both before and after it joined the Allies. These victims had no memorials. They were buried in anonymous mass graves. The murderer's power that killed them, and the powers that collaborated with the murderer, were never actually prepared to talk about them. The memory of millions of innocent victims was erased from history.
Or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
Athlete empowerment is something right-wingers despise, because when they use their voices to make a positive change,
Raphael Warnock will unseat Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler.
Racists lose their power.
No, people just don't like when sports are used to advance leftist ideologies. This is nothing new. It's been done in the past too.
Right after the end of the Second World War, they set out to prove to the world that communism is the best system in all things, including hockey. This is the first time the Soviets have played in an international tournament, and their first game against Canadians.
We didn't expect that level of play. We thought their equipment was shoddy. You know, they didn't look like real hockey players. But they could skate. They could really skate.
They announced that athletes will continue to face punishment for protesting or demonstrating while on the medal podium, at official ceremonies, or on the field of play. This means raising a fist or taking a knee is banned. Making note of the injustices minorities face, banned. Bringing awareness to the unfair shake folks have because of the color of their skin, banned. What the IOC doesn't realize is that this decision will just fuel the athletes that were considering taking part in a demonstration. History has proven that it will be on their side. At worst, they could be stripped of their medals that they won.
Or they might not win the medals. For example, the US women's football team decided to kneel at the start of the tournament and disrespect a World War II veteran before the tournament, and then they lost to Sweden. And they are by far the best women's football team. They have won gold at 4 out of the 6 Olympic tournaments which have had women's football, and the last 2 Women's World Cups, and they lost to Canada and will not be playing for the gold.
And at best, they'll be immortalized like the pioneers that came before.
Or the players that beat them could be remembered as the players who put the kneelers in their place. Like how the US remembers the time in the 80s when they beat the communists in hockey. So with all this kneeling in American sports, imagine if a country which is not kneeling and has no white guilt were to beat America in the Olympics. So I hope Slovenia wins gold in basketball.
I feel power in my soul. My heart beats for basketball. Hear the proud Slovenian call. Feel the heartbeat of my soul. I feel power in my soul. My heart beats for basketball. Hear the proud Slovenian call. Feel the heart.